Hey you guys, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my September and October haul, and yeah. So the reason I didn't do a September haul is because I only really bought 3 books in September, and then in October I bought like a lot. So let's just kind of get into it. But the first book that I bought in September was one that I've already read and did a review on, so you could probably go back to my wrap-up somewhere there and look at the review, but that is Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. Now this follows the 2 star-crossed lovers of our fair Verona in Italy, Romeo and Juliet, and after a chance meeting, they fall in love only to realize that their parents are the ones that have been kind of bitching at each other for the past like however many years and making life hell for everyone in Verona. So that's this first book, and this is not a wrap-up but a haul, so I'm not going to get into my thoughts about it. The next book that I bought in September is one that I should have read earlier on, but I do have plans for all the sequels that I have to read come December. But that is China Rich Girlfriend by Kevin Kwan, which is the sequel to Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. Now, the first book follows Rachel Chu as she follows her boyfriend Nick Young back to China with him so he can go to his best friend's wedding. And there she not only realizes that her boyfriend is stinking rich, but his family also has issues with those who are not stinking rich. So as you can tell, this is a huge satire on like that whole snobby Asian lifestyle that a lot of like richer Asians and lesser like not so rich Asians seem to pride themselves in. And I'm excited to get into the second book. The first book I had my issues with, which I will leave my review down below. Yeah, I'll leave every review that I have for these books, if available, down below. But I had my issues with this book, and I'm hoping that the second book kind of rectifies it a little bit more, or refines it just a smidgen. But judging by a quick little like flip through, I'm not seeing a lot of hope. The last book that I bought in September is one that I'm very excited to have gotten, because I was trying to find this back in like August, and everything, like literally Amazon, Barnes & Noble, like the used bookstore we have here, sold out and gone. And that is P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han, which is the sequel to All the Boys I Loved Before. Don't know if that's grammatically correct, but we'll go with it. And essentially what this series is about is that Laura Jean Covey writes these letters to boys that she has loved before as kind of closure, and keeps them in a hat box for safekeeping. But somehow magically these letters get sent out, and one of them was sent out to her sister's boyfriend. So in order to kind of fix things up, the series kind of follows the aftermath of that lovely little mess. Now I can't give too much away because, like I said, the second book, but I'll be sure to leave anything that I have about this in the stuff, like in the description below, if there is space and whatnot, because I saw that YouTube had a word count all of a sudden, but I'm not going to get into it. One of the books that I bought, well actually, now we're moving on into October, which I bought a lot of books for, but the first book that I bought is the thrilling ending to this series, and that is Always and Forever Laura Jean by Jenny Han. This is the trilogy, because essentially this was supposed to be a duology, and then she turned it into a trilogy. So this is the thrilling conclusion to this trilogy, and I've already finished this book, like I said, with P.S. I Still Love You, so I'll leave any thoughts down below, but I can't give too much away. All I can say is that it continues to follow after the events of the first and second book, but now she's in her senior year and she has a lot more than just like boys on her mind. The next book that I bought in October is Hunting Prince Dracula by Carrie Maniscalco, and this is the sequel to Stalking Jack the Ripper, and this got a little thicker. Like the first book was not that nearly as thick, but this essentially follows Audrey Rose after the events where she kind of figures out who Jack the Ripper is and like flees, essentially not flees, but like she leaves where she lived because of this. And this is her now in, I believe she's in a school for like, she studied with her uncle who like did the like cutting up people, the morgue or the medical examiner. So now she's going to school in like in Transylvania, I'm dumb, where she somehow meets Prince Dracula. So I'm excited to get into this. Again, I have big plans for all my sequels that I have yet to read in December, so this won't get touched until then. The next book is A Heartbreak Waiting to Happen, and it came out, I believe, in October, so I'm happy to have it. And it's also signed. But that is What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. Now, for those of you guys who aren't terrified of these words, you should be, because these authors are terrifying in their own. And look, it's signed! But I got this at Target, and essentially this follows a meet cute where Ben or Arthur, one of them, they meet at a post office and they kind of go on a bunch of first dates that don't go well, and this kind of a constant like, what if we're not meant to be, but we're just going to keep trying. So let's see how this goes. I plan on reading it this month and sobbing into a corner because of this book. The next book in this haul, I feel like I've said TBR at some point, but it's not a TBR, it's a haul, so. But the next book in this haul is another sequel, me and my sequels, and that is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas, which is the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series, and it got a lot thicker. And I know that Kingdom of Ash is like 1,000 pages, and I'm not looking forward to reading that sucker, but I sort of am, because let's face it, I'm going to fly through it. But essentially this follows Thena Sardothian in the aftermath of the first book, where she was taken back from the slave camps of Endovir to fight at the King's Champion battle to become the King's Champion, and then like, you know, freedom and all that stuff. And I mean, if you haven't heard about this series, I suggest picking up the first book. If you don't like the first book, give the second book a try, because the second book throws you in for like the biggest loop you could ever think of. So, and look how freaking thick this is. This is only the 4th book. Oh! And I'm reading it this month. It just didn't really fit my whole like sequel thing that we're working on it. The next book that I bought in October is one that I have already read, which I feel like it seems to be a constant theme in this haul. But that is Beast by Bree Spangler. Now this follows Dylan, who is a 15-year-old who doesn't look 15. Like, he's like one of those 15-year-olds who like sprouted like 6 feet overnight, got random muscles without working out, and like gets hair everywhere. So lots of like situations for bullying and teasing. And after he fell off a roof one day, accidentally, he ends up in a self-harm like therapy group where he meets Jamie, who is this wonderful like sassy girl, and falls head over heels for her, only to find out that she is trans and that he somehow spaced out during the first like meeting that they had in the group therapy home, where she brought this up, and now it's kind of him figuring out his sexuality and everything. And I will talk more about this in a wrap-up or a review. The next book in this TBR is one that I'm currently in the middle of and sobbing hysterically over, and that is When the Moon Is Ours by Anna Marie McLemore. Now, for those of you guys who have read her work previously, why didn't y'all suggest her to me earlier? Like, literally her writing is so like beautiful, but I'm not going to get into it because this is a haul, not a wrap-up. But why didn't you tell me? So now I have to go pick up her other books. But essentially, this follows best friends Sam and Miel, and Miel grows roses out of her wrists while Sam paints the moon. And now, after these four sisters find out that assume that her roses can do something magical, they kind of blackmail her into revealing secrets that she has never wanted to get revealed in the first place. And I do know that this is an Own Voices novel. The author is Latina. Own Voices, you should read it. The second to last book in this why do I keep saying TBR? It's not a TBR, it's a haul. In this haul is one that I have also read, which is another theme for the next book the last book. But that is Dear Martin by Nick Stone. Now this follows a high school student named Justice, who's like top notch in his class, grades and everything. But somehow magically, after trying to help his very drunk ex-girlfriend, he ends up slammed on the floor with handcuffs because, you know, he's black. So this is him essentially writing letters to Martin Luther King, trying to figure out how to be more like him, and trying to make sense of this world that seems to is just against him, just specifically for his skin color. Why can't I talk? Now this has a lot of mixed media in it from what I'm seeing, and I've read it so I know, but definitely again we'll talk more about this in our wrap-up. The last book, I'm out of breath. The last book that I bought in October is another little heartbreak of mine, and I have talked about it in a wrap-up, so I will link that somewhere if I remember. And that is The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. Now this follows Prince Sebastian and Francis, an aspiring dressmaker, and they end up meeting by chance after seeing Francis's dresses, and Francis finds out that by day Prince Sebastian is Sebastian, but by night he is Lady Crystalia, who is this magical being who, not magical, but essentially a huge big model in the industry, and she is faced with either finding a way to forward her career, but also outing Sebastian and losing a friend in the process. So sounds very heartbreaky, and I don't know why I'm trying to make it sound like I haven't read the book yet. When I have read the book, I have a review on the book, I have shed tears over the book, I have shoved this book in everyone's face and told them to read it. But this is a graphic novel, so if you haven't read it, it'll probably take you like a day max to read it. If you're like me, it'll take you 30 minutes. But yeah, more thoughts on the wrap-up and my Goodreads review. So if you haven't seen that wrap-up, I suggest you go watch it, because I did read some books that time too. But that is it for my October and September haul. I'm looking at the books on the ground and has thus realized that I need to go take a thumbnail now. So if you haven't subscribed to me, please do. I upload every Saturday and Wednesday. Talk to me in the comments. All my social media links are at BookishTherese, and like if you like these videos. And if any of these books have piqued your interest, leave them below if you want like a review, a book of the week, or if you want me to talk more about it, if I have read it, in the comments with you. So, yeah. But until then, I'll see you guys on Saturday with a new video, and that's about it. Bye.